The word didn't come from a stranger. It didn't come from the internet. It didn't even come from someone who barely knew me. It came from my own family. And the worst part wasn't hearing it. It was watching my 9-year-old daughter try to understand it. That night started like every other ordinary Tuesday. Homework spread across the kitchen table. A half-folded pile of laundry on the couch. The quiet hum of the dishwasher pretending everything in our world was normal. My daughter, Emma, sat cross-legged in her chair, tongue pressed against the corner of her mouth while she worked through her math problems. She took school seriously like it was her personal responsibility to keep life steady for both of us. I was packing her lunch for the next day when she walked over slowly, holding her tablet in both hands. "Mom?" she asked carefully. There's a tone children use when they're not sure if they're allowed to say what they're about to say. I heard it immediately. "Yeah, baby?" She hesitated. "What does worthless mean?" The knife in my hand paused midair. I didn't turn around right away. I gave myself 1 second. One deep breath. Because I knew, instinctively, that this wasn't about vocabulary. "Where did you hear that?" I asked, keeping my voice soft. Emma turned the tablet toward me. "I wasn't snooping," she said quickly. "It just popped up." On the screen was a screenshot from our extended family group chat. The one I hadn't been added back to after that argument months ago. The one my sister Paige treated like her own personal stage. And there it was. Paige's message sent to the entire family. "Some people never grow up. She's worthless. Always has been. Playing victim as usual." Under it were reactions. A laughing emoji from my cousin. A thumbs up from my uncle. Silence from my parents. No one defended me. No one questioned it. No one said, "Hey, maybe don't say that about your own sister." Emma's voice pulled me back. "Is she talking about you?" I nodded once. Emma's brows knitted together. "Why would Aunt Paige say that?" "Because she's jealous. Because she needs someone to stand on. Because she's always needed me smaller to feel bigger." But you don't tell a child that. Instead, I crouched down so I was eye level with her. "Sometimes," I said carefully, "people say mean things when they're angry." Emma swallowed. "Are you worthless?" That question hit deeper than the insult itself. Sadness doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes it looks like your child searching your face for reassurance. I cupped her cheeks gently. "No," I said firmly, "and neither are you." She blinked fast, processing. But their family. There it was. Surprise. Disbelief. The confusion that happens when a child realizes family doesn't automatically mean safe. I forced a small smile. Being family doesn't mean you get to decide someone's value. Emma stared at the screen again. "Did you do something bad?" That's the part people don't talk about. When adults are cruel, children assume someone must have earned it. Because the alternative that cruelty can be random is terrifying. "I didn't do anything bad," I said steadily. "And you didn't either." She nodded slowly, but I could see the doubt lingering. After she went to brush her teeth, I stood alone in the kitchen staring at that message. Worthless. It wasn't new. Paige had been saying versions of it my whole life. When I didn't make the cheer team, when my business struggled in the beginning, when I got pregnant and chose to raise Emma alone. Another bad decision. You can't even keep a man. You're always behind. She never said worthless to my face. She preferred witnesses. Because Paige doesn't just insult, she performs. And the anger that rose in my chest that night wasn't about me anymore. It was about Emma reading it. It was about my daughter having to ask if she was somehow attached to my supposed failure. The next morning, I called my mom. Not to argue. To confirm. She answered on the third ring. "Hi, honey," she said casually, like nothing had happened. "Did you see what Paige wrote?" I asked. A pause. "She was upset," my mom replied. "You know how she is." There it was. Dismissal. Minimizing. She called me worthless. I said evenly. "Well," my mom sighed. "You two have always had tension." My grip tightened around the phone. "She wrote it in front of everyone." Emma saw it. Silence. Not shocked silence. Recalculating silence. "Well, Emma shouldn't be looking at adult conversations," my mom finally said. And just like that, something inside me shifted permanently. Because the disbelief wasn't about Paige anymore. It was about realizing my own mother was more concerned about appearances than impact. More concerned about keeping peace than protecting her granddaughter. I hung up without arguing, without begging, without defending myself. Later that evening, Emma crawled into my lap with her favorite book. "Are you sad?" she asked quietly. I didn't lie. "A little," I admitted. She wrapped her arms around me. "You're not worthless," she whispered fiercely, like she was correcting the universe. Empathy from a 9-year-old is a powerful thing. It broke something open in me. Not in a weak way. In a clear way. Because I suddenly understood something I should have seen years ago. Paige didn't call me worthless because I was failing. She called me worthless because I wasn't. And the next time my family said it out loud, they weren't going to be laughing. They were going to be very, very quiet. They just didn't know that yet. If you asked my sister Paige what she thought would happen to me, she would have given you that tight little smile she uses when she's already decided she's right. She wouldn't say it directly. Paige prefers to sound concerned while she's predicting your failure, but the message was always the same. I would struggle. I would get overwhelmed. I would eventually come back asking for help with my pride finally sanded down to something she could tolerate. Families like mine don't always say the quiet part out loud. They just wait. And for a while, I understood why they were so confident. Single motherhood isn't the inspiring montage people imagine. It's logistics. It's budgets that don't stretch. It's school emails that always seem to arrive 5 minutes before dinner. During the day, I moved through routines with practiced calm, packing Emma's lunch, checking her homework, showing up to parent meetings with the same steady smile. But at night, when the apartment finally went quiet and the lights were low, the sadness crept in through the edges. Not dramatic sadness. The quiet kind that sits in your chest and asks uncomfortable questions. What if they're right? What if Emma notices the difference between our life and everyone else's? What if Paige is just waiting for the moment I can't keep everything balanced anymore? I gave myself exactly 5 minutes to feel that fear on the hardest nights. 5 minutes, no more. Because the moment Emma called for me or padded into the kitchen for water, the timer in my head shut off. I didn't have the luxury of staying stuck in self-doubt. I had a child watching me to learn what steady looked like. What surprised me most wasn't the exhaustion. I expected that. What surprised me was the anger that slowly replaced the fear. Not loud anger. Useful anger. The kind that wakes you up earlier. The kind that keeps your laptop open longer after your kid is asleep. Because every time I remembered Paige's message sitting in that group chat, worthless, something inside me refused to stay small. So I worked. Not in a glamorous way. Not in a way anyone would post about. I started where I always start, at the kitchen table after Emma went to bed, laptop open, shoulders tight, determined to stretch every skill I had into something that could actually carry us forward. It began small. Helping a local boutique organize their online orders. Cleaning up a messy scheduling system for a daycare owner. Nothing flashy. Nothing that would impress Paige if she ever bothered to look. But I noticed something quickly. Every small business owner I worked with had the same problem. Chaos. Too many moving parts. No systems. No structure. Good intentions drowning in disorganization. I didn't build something trendy. I built something useful. Clean workflows. Simple automation. Quiet fixes that stopped money from slipping through cracks. And once it worked for one business, the referrals started the way they always do, slowly at first, then all at once. By the time Emma turned 10, my email inbox looked nothing like the version my family probably imagined. Instead of overdue notices and late payment reminders, it filled with consultation requests. People asking if I could help them too. Still, I didn't celebrate. Not yet. Because growing up in my family teaches you one survival rule early: don't trust stability until it holds for a while. The real shift came on an ordinary Wednesday morning. Emma was at the table again, serious as ever, working through her reading assignment when my phone buzzed with a notification from my business dashboard. I almost ignored it. Most mornings were busy enough without distractions. But something made me glance down. 3,000 active users. For a second, I thought the number was wrong. 3 years earlier, I was calculating grocery totals down to the dollar. Now, something I built between school pickups and bedtime routines was quietly growing faster than I had allowed myself to imagine. Emma noticed my silence immediately. She always does. Mom? She asked carefully. Why are you staring at your phone like that? I exhaled slowly. Because something good just happened, I said. Emma's face lit up instantly pure, uncomplicated joy. Did we win something? I smiled despite myself. Something like that. It wasn't fireworks. It wasn't overnight fame. But it was traction. Real traction. And from that moment forward, things began to move in a way my family had never predicted. Within months, a small business publication mentioned my company. Nothing dramatic. A short feature. The kind most people scroll past. I almost forgot about it, but someone else didn't. Because families like mine may disappear when you struggle, but they develop excellent eyesight the moment you start succeeding. The first message came from an unknown number. I was loading the dishwasher when my phone buzzed. I almost ignored it out of habit, but something instinct maybe made me pick up. Hey, my mother's voice said brightly, like months of distance had been a scheduling glitch. Call me back when you can. Not I miss you. Not I'm sorry. Just call me. I stood very still in my kitchen. For a moment, disbelief washed over me cool and sharp, because the timing wasn't subtle. She hadn't called when Emma cried about missing family holidays. She hadn't called when I was working late nights trying to stabilize our finances. She called the moment my name appeared somewhere respectable. I deleted the voicemail. The second attempt came exactly how I expected. Through Paige. Her text was short, efficient, and dripping with the same controlled irritation I'd heard my whole life. Mom wants to make peace. Don't be stubborn. Not I'm sorry. Not we were wrong. Don't be stubborn. I stared at the screen for a long moment. And this time, the anger in my chest burned hotter. Because Paige still thought I was the same person she used to talk over. Still thought I would eventually fold. Still thought my boundaries were temporary. She was about to learn something uncomfortable. I wasn't struggling anymore. And the next time my family tried to step back into my life, they weren't going to find the same version of me waiting. They were going to find someone they no longer knew how to control. And very soon, they were going to prove exactly how much that bothered them. The knock came on a quiet Saturday afternoon, the kind of calm that usually meant Emma was finally relaxed enough to hum while she colored. Sunlight stretched across the living room floor, soft and warm, and for a moment everything in our small apartment felt steady. Those were the moments I had learned to appreciate the most, the ordinary ones that didn't demand anything from me except presence. That was why the doorbell made my stomach drop instantly. Families like mine never arrive during peaceful moments unless they need something. I dried my hands slowly on the kitchen towel, buying myself a few seconds to breathe. Emma looked up from the floor, her crayon paused mid-color. Are we expecting someone? She asked. No, I said quietly. One word, enough to change the air in the room. I walked to the door and opened it. And there they were. My mother stood at the front, dressed too carefully for a casual visit. Soft cardigan, neat hair, the same polished appearance she used when she expected to be welcomed. Behind her was my father, shifting slightly like he wasn't completely comfortable being there. And just off to the side stood Paige, arms folded, eyes already scanning past me into the apartment, like she was taking inventory. For a long moment, nobody spoke. Something cold and steady settled into my chest. Not panic. Recognition. Of course they were here now. My mother smiled first, the same practiced smile she used in public spaces. Hi, sweetheart, she said gently. We were in the area and thought we should stop by. In the area. Like 3 years of distance could be explained by geography. Behind me, Emma had quietly stood up. I didn't need to turn to know I could hear the small shift in her breathing, that alert stillness kids get when adults start using careful voices. What do you need? I asked calmly. The smile on my mother's face flickered just slightly. We thought, she began carefully, that maybe it was time to move forward. As a family. For a split second, disbelief washed over me. Move forward. After everything, Paige stepped in smoothly when the silence stretched too long. She always did, inserting herself the moment she felt the conversation slipping. You've been busy, Paige said lightly, her gaze sweeping the apartment again. We saw that little business article. Mom thought it would be nice to reconnect. Nice. There it was. Not concern. Not regret. Calculation. Behind me, Emma appeared quietly in the hallway, clutching her sketchbook to her chest. I saw the exact moment Paige noticed her, the quick narrowing of her eyes, the subtle shift in posture. And suddenly the sadness hit me hardest. Not for me. For Emma. Because my daughter was watching adults who should have loved her stand on our doorstep, speaking in polite half-truths like nothing had ever happened. Emma's small voice broke the tension. Grandma? Hope. Soft. Fragile. Dangerous. For a split second, something uncomfortable flickered across my mother's face. Not quite guilt. Not quite regret. But close enough to sting. Her voice softened instantly, warm and practiced. Oh, honey, she said gently. Look how big you've gotten. And just like that, the anger inside me turned sharp and protective. Because Emma's shoulders lifted slightly, that automatic hopeful reaction children have when an adult finally notices them. After everything, I stepped forward before my mother could move closer. You don't get to do that, I said quietly. The air on the doorstep went cold. My mother blinked. Excuse me? You don't get to pretend none of this happened. I continued, voice calm but immovable. You wrote me out of the family. Remember? My father shifted behind her. Paige's jaw tightened. For the first time since they arrived, real surprise flickered across their faces. They hadn't expected resistance. They hadn't expected me to stand here steady instead of emotional. My mother's voice sharpened. You're being dramatic. We were upset at the time. You called me worthless, I said evenly. Silence. Heavy. Emma's fingers tightened around her sketchbook. Paige stepped forward quickly, her tone smoothing into that familiar condescension I knew too well. We're trying to fix things, she said. But you have to meet us halfway. Mom is willing to move past. Disbelief finally cracked through my calm. Move past? I repeated softly. Then I looked directly at Paige. And what exactly are you moving past? I asked. Paige hesitated, just for a second, but it was enough. Because in that tiny pause, everything became painfully clear. They weren't here to apologize. They were here because I was finally useful. And standing behind me, listening to every word, was my daughter beginning to understand exactly what that meant. Emma's quiet voice cut through the tension like glass. Mom, why are they here now? And for the first time since they knocked, my mother went pale. For a moment after Emma asked her question, the entire doorway went still. Not polite still. Not awkward small talk still. The kind of silence that exposes people. The kind that makes the truth step forward whether anyone is ready or not. Mom, why are they here now? Emma's voice wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. Because the question hit exactly where my family was weakest. I saw it immediately. The way my mother's smile faltered. The way Paige's shoulders tightened just slightly. The way my father suddenly looked anywhere but at me. Surprise. Real surprise. Because they had prepared for me. They had not prepared for my daughter. They expected the old version of me, the one who swallowed discomfort to keep peace, the one who explained away their behavior so Emma wouldn't see the cracks. They didn't expect the woman standing in front of them now. And they definitely didn't expect a 9-year-old brave enough to ask the question out loud. I crouched slightly so I was eye level with Emma, keeping my voice soft. They're here, I said carefully. Because something changed. Emma frowned. What changed? I stood slowly, my eyes never leaving Paige's face. They realized I wasn't struggling the way they expected. The words landed clean. My mother's composure cracked for just half a second, but I caught it. And that was the moment the anger inside me finally settled into something sharp and controlled. Because there it was. Not concern. Not love. Expectation of failure. Paige recovered first, of course she did. She always moved fast when control started slipping. You're twisting things, Paige said tightly. We came here to fix this. I tilted my head slightly. Did you? I asked. Quiet. Measured. Dangerously calm. Paige's irritation flashed. Mom is trying to move forward. Most people would be grateful for that. And there it was, the sadness hit me again, but not the old kind that used to make me doubt myself. This was the heavy, tired sadness of finally seeing something clearly. They truly believed they had done nothing wrong. Behind me, Emma's small fingers slid into my hand. A silent question. A silent worry. A silent, please don't let this turn into another moment I have to remember. I squeezed her hand gently. Then I looked directly at my mother. You didn't come to fix anything, I said quietly. You came because you saw my name somewhere useful. My mother's face flushed immediately. That's not fair. You called me worthless, I said calmly. In front of the entire family. My father shifted uncomfortably. Paige stepped forward sharply. You're being dramatic. Families say things when they're upset. I let out one soft, humorless breath. And families apologize when they mean it, I said. Silence fell again. Heavy. Unavoidable. My mother's voice finally lost its polished warmth. So what? She snapped. You're just going to punish us forever? And that right there was the moment something inside me went completely still. Because the disbelief was almost breathtaking. Punish. Not hurt. Not regret. Punish. Like boundaries were cruelty. Like consequences were unfair. I straightened slowly. No, I said softly. Another pause. My mother leaned forward slightly, hope flickering in her expression for the first time since they arrived. No, she pressed. My voice stayed level. I'm not punishing you. Then I stepped back fully into the doorway, Emma's hand still wrapped tightly in mine. I'm protecting her. The words landed like a door locking for the final time. This time the shock on their faces was unmistakable. Real. Raf. Too late. Paige's composure finally slipped. You can't seriously be cutting off your own family over this. I met her gaze steadily. You cut me off first, I said. That hit. Hard. My father finally looked up, guilt flickering across his face for the first time since they arrived. But I wasn't watching him. I was watching Paige. Because this right here was the moment she realized something had shifted permanently. Her voice came out tighter now. You're making a mistake. My lips curved slightly, not quite a smile. Something steadier. I think, I said quietly, you already made yours. Emma's grip tightened in my hand. But this time it wasn't fear. It was relief. Small, fragile, but real. I stepped back another inch. The universal signal. This conversation was over. My mother stared at me, frustration and calculation flickering behind her eyes, still searching for leverage, still looking for a way back in. But for the first time in my life, there wasn't one. Goodbye, I said calmly. And then I closed the door. Not slammed. Not dramatic. Just closed. The soft click of the lock echoed louder than any argument ever could. For a few seconds, I just stood there, forehead resting lightly against the door, breathing slow and steady. Behind me, Emma's small voice broke the quiet. Mom? I turned. She looked up at me, eyes searching but no longer scared. You're not worthless, she said fiercely, like she was correcting the world. And just like that, something inside my chest finally cracked open and healed at the same time. I knelt and pulled her into a tight hug, pressing a kiss into her hair. No, baby, I whispered. I'm not. And as I held my daughter in the quiet apartment we had built piece by piece, one steady decision at a time, I realized something my family would probably never understand. They didn't lose me because I failed. They lost me because I finally stopped believing them. And this time, I wasn't coming back. So tell me, did I go too far or not far enough? Let me know in the comments.